A grey, slightly overcast start to race day here at the Hungaroring is slowly but surely giving way to blue skies and rising temperatures. Good morning, everyone. This is Mark James in the commentary box ahead of round 11 of the 2017 TCR International Series. The first of two races today from the Hungaroring, the Formula One circuit, around 20 kilometers or so from the very heart of Budapest in Hungary. And the crowd starting to build. We're expecting quite a large crowd here for a number of reasons, one of which is that we're racing with the DTM series this weekend for the first time. And so thanks to our colleagues from Germany for looking after us so well. And the other reason is the man who's on pole position, which we'll be talking about very shortly. 4.38 kilometers then, the Hungaroring in this current layout. And what you can't see from that track map, the 14 corners, but also the rise and fall. You saw there the little arrows pointing downhill and uphill. Real changes of elevation here. And the start-finish straight on the level, you then start to descend down to turn one. But we'll talk you through the lap as we go on. The current situation in the Drivers' Championship, well, couldn't really be tighter, could it? 2 points, Stefano Camini's advantage over Roberto Colciago. Jean-Carl Venet, having led the series, is currently third, ahead of Attila Taschi. Local favourites, and can Taschi take his first win in the TCR International Series in race one? Dusan Borkovic fifth on 82 points. And you see there Matto Homola in 11th place. We'll be talking about Homola in a moment because all sorts of dramas after qualifying yesterday. If you were following the series on social media, you'll see that Homola had issues with the car, but slightly more complex than cut-and-dried issues with the car. We'll explain during the green flag lap. But there is the grid ahead of race one today, the second race at about 1 o'clock local time. And that's the man a lot of the local fans will have come to see. On pole position, making his driving debut in the TCR International Series, Norbert Mikelic from Hungary, team owner, team boss of Mira Racing, and here very much to help his two drivers, Attila Taschi and Roberto Colciago, in their bid for the TCR Championship. Alongside Mikelic on the grid will be Jean-Carl Venet, lucky to escape that big accident just a week ago at the Salzburg Ring. The car having to be rebuilt, but at least more fortunate than Venet's teammate Rob Huff, who had to have a brand new car shipped up from Barcelona. There is Taschi, third on the grid. And the difference in age and experience between Taschi and his boss, something like 16 years. Taschi celebrating his 18th birthday last week. What can he do, and what can the man alongside him do to prevent Taschi getting in front on the drag down to the first corner? Pepe Oriola, runner-up in the 2015 TCR International Series, really needs to get his campaign back on track after a string of disappointing results so far. The balance of performance changes this week, in theory, should have helped the Seats and also the Volkswagens, but the Hondas getting an extra 10 kilos of weight doesn't seem to have done them that much harm, you have to say, here at the Hungaroring. Roberto Colciago fifth on the grid, and so it's 3 Hondas, a Seat and a Volkswagen that make up the top 5 for the grid for the first of today's two races. And alongside Colciago, there is Rob Huff. The car destroyed at the Salzburg Ring a week ago. And in fact, the only salvageable part, luckily for him, is the engine, which means he doesn't have to drop to the back of the grid because of an engine change. They did that last weekend, but everything else, gearbox included, was destroyed in that huge accident at the Salzburg Ring. So then, let's get confirmation. Mikelic starts from pole alongside Venet. Taschi and Oriola on row 2. Colciago and Huff you saw on row 3. Steele Paulsen and Gianni Morbidelli row 4. Giacomo Altoe and Jens Renaud Moller, who had that big accident in Q2 qualifying yesterday. So Moller will start race 2 from pole. Daniel Lloyd, who had his best laps disallowed in qualifying, will start from 11th, ahead of his teammate James Nash. And there is Matto Homola right at the back of the grid, having had his qualifying session disallowed and also disqualified from qualifying. The reason given was a discrepancy in the car, and so it didn't conform to the homologation, And from what Matto has tweeted this morning, it would appear to be paperwork rather than an issue with the car. The car had a bracket, or rather the car should have had a bracket to hold the radiator, and it wasn't there. So the letter of the rules apply. The car was not in conformity. We understand it now is, and so permission has been given for Homola to start from the back of the grid alongside Frederick Vervish. An engine change for him yesterday, which drops him automatically to the back of the grid. And Ferenc Fizer in the new Kia, he also starts from the back of the grid. He had an engine change penalty at the Salzburg-Ring last weekend. He wasn't able to take it because he crashed out before the races, and so the steward's decision was that the penalty would continue forward to the next race in which he took part, which is this weekend. So even though it's a change of car, the penalty still applies because the penalty was incurred before the races last weekend. I hope that makes sense. We're on our green flag lap, though. There is Mikulic, there is Venet, there is Tashi, as they make their way around this circuit. That gives you an idea of the elevation changes. This is turn 4, which is what caused quite a bit of controversy yesterday with drivers cutting that curb. And quite a few people very vocal on social media last night. 16 drivers having had, or 16 laps rather, having been disallowed because of infringing track limits. And so quite a few drivers incurring the wrath of the stewards. But we're expecting the 3 Hondas to start very strongly. They always start strongly. Mikulic has already said that he's here to help his 2 teammates. So what can Tashi do? Can Tashi out-drag Jean-Carl Venet down towards the first corner? And if that's the case, what then will Mikulic do in order to help his young colleague? What too will Colciago do? But bearing in mind that Colciago is one of 3 drivers carrying success ballast here this weekend. After Salzburg-Ring, Colciago carries 10 kilos, Dusan Borkovic carries 20, shrugging his shoulders yesterday. That's not good news. That's one of the 2 Kias making their debut in the International Series this weekend. And Istvan Bernula, 39 years old today, and that's not the way he would want to start his birthday. He would be starting from row 10 of the grid, but of course, with that technical issue, he will start from the pit lane, if indeed he does start at all. 2 Kias here then this weekend, and the Zengo team, lucky really to get their car on track at all. It was only built on Friday, or completed on Friday, I should say, driven to the track overnight, ran yesterday, had issues with the throttle cable in free practice, completed several laps in qualifying, but Ferenc Fizer, I think, just pleased. There he is, the 55 car, the green Kia, towards the left of your screen. He, I think, will be pleased just to be here, just to be in the car, and they can now work on getting that car quicker and work on its reliability. There is Homola, a frustrated Matto Homola, certainly from the tone of his tweet this morning, saying nothing to do with him, nothing to do with the guys from DG Sport Competition. It was an administrative error which is now being corrected, but it's good to see the Opel take its position on the grid, albeit at the back. So then, we're minutes away from this 11th round of the TCR International Series. The cars make their way around that long hairpin right, which is turn 14, onto the start-finish straight. They'll form up in their grid positions. And there is another frustrated man, Stefano Comini, saying yesterday that the Audi is undrivable and it handles like a tank. He is, of course, carrying 30 kilos of success ballast, and the track, in theory, shouldn't suit the Audi. So, green flag being waved. We are moments away. The lights will go on in sequence, and then, once they go out, we are racing. Watch the Hondas, 1, 3, and 5 on the grid. The lights go on in sequence. Out they go. Away goes Mikulic. There goes Tashi, as we expected. Tashi drags his way past Venet. Can he get past his team leader? It looks as though he is. Indeed he is. 1-2 for Mira. Tashi leading from Mikulic. Possibly also Colciago. No, indeed, but he has the line on the right-hand side of Jean-Carl Venet. Venet will have the line for the left-hander at turn 2. Down the hill they go. Attila Tashi leads here in Hungary on this first lap of 14. Mikelic second. Jean Calvinet third. Then it's Colciago. Several cars running very wide through turn 3. Just behind Colciago, it's Oriola. Then Huff, then Dan Lloyd, who's made his way up, then Morbidelli, then Nash, Kajaya, and Altoe. Huff just having a little look at the back of Oriola's car. The field then streaming through turn 11. We briefly saw Fitzer there, having moved his way up a couple of places. Now, this is where Tashi has to get the hammer down, has to pull away from the chasing pack. And Mikelic, in turn, will be making that Honda as wide as he possibly can to help his young teammate. Can Colciago get past Jean Calvinet and make it an all-Mira 1-2-3? Applause from the Hungarian fans in the grandstand beneath me. They have their drivers first and second as Tashi locks up going into turn 1. And that was Oriola, I think, taking a look at the back of Colciago. Colciago defending from the Seat as they go through turn 2. There's Huff. Lloyd still ahead of Nash. The two West Coast Racing Volkswagens running together. They will start second and third on the grid for race 2 this afternoon. Huff, though, holding back the two Seats. You can almost sense the frustration amongst the Lukoil Craft Bamboo cars as the door opens ever so slightly. But no, indeed, Huff moves back to defend. Huff from Lloyd, from Nash, from Morbidelli, from Altoe. Behind Altoe is Kajaya, Comini up to 12th. Then Vervish having made his way through from the back of the grid to 13th. Again, running very wide there. And Huff being the perfect teammate to Jean Calvinet, just holding back the pack. And you can sense the frustration. James Nash just looking at the inside of his colleague. James, remember, the runner-up to Stefano Comini in last year's series, really wants to get his campaign back on track. Dan Lloyd only joining the series in Salzburg last weekend. No change then. Mira Racing still 1-2 at the end of 2 laps. Tashi leads from Mikelic. Jean Calvinet tucked up right behind Mikelic. Then it's Colciago, then Oriola, then Huff leading the two Lukoil Craft Bamboo Seats. Surely Nash will be on the radio asking his team to get a message to Dan Lloyd saying, look, let me through, I need the points. And into the pits comes Dusan Borkovic, the team saying yesterday that this track really didn't suit the Alpha. Let's just replay the start for you and look at Tashi get away from the second row. Nice clean start. And across went, there was contact between Altoe and I think Moller on the start line. Let's look at that again. Yes, just a nudge between Altoe and Moller. Altoe in the second of the West Coast Racing Volkswagens, Moller in the dark grey Honda. But indeed, brilliant start from Attila Tashi to get ahead of Mikelic going into turn 1. That's one of the Zengo Seats. And that's Stian Paulsen. And that's not good news for Paulsen. And Rob Huff pulls up while we were watching Paulsen, while we were watching that replay. Now, I don't know what the problem is with Rob Huff. That's turn 11. Let's just take a look at this. And indeed, Huff slowing dramatically, forcing others to go really wide to get around him. And Huff, bitter disappointment for him after the efforts of the team to get that car sorted after the problems last weekend. So, Leopard Racing down to just the one car. But Jean-Carl Venet in the podium positions, third at the moment behind the two Hondas. And Mikelic will be doing all he can to defend his young teammate from Venet. There is Colciago. There is Oriola. Lloyd, Nash. The number 10 Volkswagen is Gianni Morbidelli, followed by Giacomo Altoe, then Kajaya. And behind Kajaya is Frederick Vervish in 11th place. Then it's Comini 12th. Hommler having made his way up to 13th ahead of Grégoire Demoustier in the other Opel. There is Demoustier in the 66 car. So Hommler, Comini, Demoustier, then Moller. Then it was Fixer, so already up to 16th. And that's an encouraging start for the Kia. Bear in mind, it didn't turn a wheel until yesterday morning. We're being told that one of the cars under investigation for an inaccurate grid position, which is the Zengo Seat of Annette Georg, the second lady driver to take part in this year's International Series, after Miki Cerruti, of course, in the Alfa. So then, starting lap 4 of 14, Attila Tashi still leads. The gap 1.1 second to his team boss, Norbert Mikelic. Jean-Carl Venet third, Roberto Colciago fourth. Pepe Oriola ahead of Dan Lloyd and James Nash. The three Lukoil Craft Bamboo Seats running virtually together. Then it's Morbidelli and Altoe in the points for West Coast. Kajaya up to 10th in the Alfa. Already warnings for track limits. Moller getting a warning for track limits in this race. Lloyd then still ahead of Nash. Vervish and Hommler. Comini and Demoustier. Comini, remember, carrying the 30 kilos of success ballast. The much tighter, twistier Hungaroring not suiting the Audi as much as the long straights at the Salzburg Ring and at Monza and at Spa. That's a battle worth watching. Kajaya holding off Fred Vervish. And that's Hommler right up behind the trio. That's the battle for 10th place. So the final point scoring position. Kajaya at the moment holding off Vervish. Vervish, remember, having started from the back row of the grid alongside Matto Hommler, and Vervish has already made his way up to 11th. Hommler behind him in 12th. As the leaders go past me to start their 5th lap, more applause, more cheering from the grandstands. And they will be a lot fuller by the time race 2 starts this afternoon at 1 o'clock. Morbidelli now takes a look up the inside of James Nash, but not quite close enough. Morbidelli, though, pressuring the Seat, but Nash has the line for the left-hander at turn 2. Down the hill they go. Nash defending from the Volkswagen. Altoe in close attendance. Kajaya now opening up a slight advantage over Vervish, who's defending from Hommler. There is Comini in the background, still ahead of Demoustier. gap between the pair having come down from 0.29 to 0.23 of a second. Nothing in it, really. There's Moller, sporting a new front end on his Honda. So Lloyd then still ahead of Nash, coming under pressure from Morbidelli, from Altoe, Kajaya, Vervish, Homola. Then a gap back to Comini, who's now opened up a slight advantage over Demoustier. The field now starting to spread out. A warning for Demoustier about track limits, a warning for Oriola about track limits. So they need to be careful. Potentially they could be called in for a drive-through if that continues. But Colciago still ahead of Oriola. There's Dan Lloyd. Nash now just pulling out slightly from Morbidelli and Altoe. These three still running together then. That's the scrap for 10th place. Kajaya ahead of Vervish, ahead of Homola. So Alfa Romeo from Alfa, from Opel. And Comini has moved up into 13th. Excuse me, Comini was always 13th. My excitement getting the better of me, but opening up an advantage over Demoustier, who is now scrapping with Moller for 14th. So what can Homola salvage after the disappointment then of that exclusion from the qualifying result yesterday? Homola at the moment 12th. If he can move up 2 places, he can salvage some points from this first race at the Hungaroring. But you have to say that with Vervish and Kajaya ahead, that is potentially a tough order. But look at that, the gap now between Tashi and Mikulic has come down to just 7/10 of a second. Venet still third, Colciago scrapping with Oriola. He just takes a look up the inside, but no, indeed. Colciago runs slightly wide. Has Oriola got the place? I think he has. Oriola noses in front. The pair run down to turn 2 side by side. Colciago has the line. So Colciago refusing to give up that position. Oriola goes round the outside. The next is a right-hander. And indeed, Colciago maintains the position. Colciago then still 4th ahead of Pepe Oriola. There is Dan Lloyd in the background. There is James Nash too. And I wonder what will be said after the race. Colciago, remember, carrying success ballast. So he's carrying 10 kilos plus the extra 10 that was given to the Honda during the balance of performance review. 10 kilos taken off both of, and there is Vervish parked up. Hopefully we can see a replay of what happened, but Vervish, who was scrapping with Kajaya for 10th, is parked up. And so yellow flag, and that's at turn 4. That was the turn I was talking about earlier on about track limits. So Mikulic still holding off Jean-Carl Venet. Colciago still ahead of Pepe Oriola. So the advantage then, Mikulic holding back Jean-Carl Venet. Tashi just getting out ahead again, 2.3 seconds the gap now. Venet Again, you can sense the frustration, looking up the inside of Mikelic, but no, indeed. This time, Colciago far enough ahead of Oriola. So Homola now, hunting down Kajaya. Comini holding off Molla. There's de Moustier. And there is the Kia in the background, which is the number 55 car of Fitzer, which with Frederick Vervisch dropping out. Fitzer now up to 15th as Comini is scrapping with Molla. That's the fight for 12th place. So the yellow flag's still out, while Vervisch's car will be recovered. And a warning for Colciago about track limits now. Now this is promising for Molla, because he crashed yesterday in Q2 in the run down to turn 1. That brought out the red flags. And I think the team were thinking twice maybe about fixing the car because they'd be starting outside the top 10. But then because of various penalties, including that given to Homola, it suddenly became worth their while, because Molla will start race 2 from pole position. Jean Calvenet tucked up right behind Norbert Mikelic. Will Venet have another attempt in the run down to turn 1? Not close enough. There's a little squirreling under braking from the Volkswagen. Mikelic holds the line. Not quite close enough, Jean-Carl. There is our race leader, Attila Tashi. Second place, Norbert Mikelic. Third is Jean Calvenet. Fourth is Roberto Colciago. Fifth is Pepe Oriola. And there is the scrap we were talking about a moment or two ago. Comini with Molla alongside him. The two go through turn 1 side by side. Comini just edging out the Danish driver. And that's de Moustier tucked up behind. Fitzer and Danny Narg behind in one of the Zengo Seats. And Molla's car sporting slight body damage to the rear, so there's been contact there somewhere. Comini then a little bit of breathing space. And I wonder if that damage is the reason why Molla has dropped behind de Moustier. Vervisch's car is clear from turn 4, so we're green again. On lap 9 of 14. No change in the leaderboard. Still Attila Tashi, 18 years of age, leads his home race ahead of his team boss Norbert Mikelic. Jean Calvenet third. Borkovic is back out on track, so whatever the problem with the Alpha was, it's been sorted and Borkovic is back out on track. Our leading trio then across the line at the start of lap 10. The gap's still around 2 seconds. This is just what Tashi needs. Venet third, Colciago fourth, Oriola fifth, Dan Lloyd still sixth. Then there's a gap back to James Nash. Then it's the two West Coast Volkswagens with Giacomo Altoe just popping his nose in front of Gianni Morbidelli. So again, the youngster is leading the master in the team, just as in Mira Racing, but I suspect for very different reasons. Then it's Kajaya. Behind Kajaya, Homola is just tucked up behind the Alpha. And that's the scrap for 10th. That's the fight for the final points position. So can Homola get into the points after that disappointment yesterday? Now, I know there are judges of fact looking at turn 4. Turns 4, 5 and 6, sorry, 6 and 7, excuse me, and turn 11 are where the track limit situations potentially occur. And as I say that, Kajaya, all four wheels over the white line. And indeed, Kajaya getting a warning on my timing screen, as does Pepe Oriola for track limits. As does Moller, and again way over the line goes Kajaya. Will he get a penalty for that? Homola all over the back of the Alfa. He moves from side to side to try to unsettle Kajaya. Has he got the line? Kajaya holds his nerve. Homola tucked up right behind. They go through turn 13. It's the long right-hand hairpin turn 14, which will get them back onto the start-finish straight. The gap between Tashi and Mikulic coming down now, 1.3 seconds. Homola takes another look at the back of Kajaya's car. They go up the start-finish straight, down the hill. There you see the elevation change, dropping down the hill to turn 1. Homola moves from right-hand side of the track to left. Kajaya moves to block. Now, up goes Homola. A straight drag race down the hill to turn 2, but Kajaya, will have the line. Homola takes the position as Kajaya moves across, but no, indeed. Homola times the move beautifully. The Opel Astra moves into 10th position and takes the final of the point-scoring positions. Great move, great overtake from Mato Homola. Here's that sequence again. Now watch the slow-mo. Kajaya, definitely all four wheels over the white line. Homola manages to keep 2 on the right side of the line, and that's where Homola made the pass stick. Down the hill from turn 1 to turn 2, Kajaya moves across, but it's too late. Homola has the line. That's the scrap for second place. Vernet still tucked up behind Mikulic. And you have to say, both of the Mira Racing drivers have judged their races to perfection. That start from Tashi was the key moment. An advantage of 1.6 seconds over Mikulic, who has done exactly what he said he would do. He was here to help his teammates, and he's done exactly that by holding off Jean-Carl Vernet for the entire race, allowing Tashi the breathing space to get on with it. And I suspect I know what the scenes will be like at Mira Racing. A brand new team for this year, the move from Mikulic from driver into team manager, team owner, and driving at his home event as well. Stian Paulsen we saw having problems earlier on, and that looks like his race is well and truly over. And a disappointment for Paulsen, who does... Whoa, that was Tashi running slightly wide. And that was the run from turn 5 up to 6 and 7. Through the left-hander at 8. The right-hander at 9. And through the left-hander at 10. So down the hill then from 11 to 12. Couple more laps, Attila, hang on. Mikulic definitely having Vernet breathing down his neck. The advantage has always been less than a second, but Vernet moving right up. Was saying yesterday at the press conference after qualifying how great he thought it was that you had these world-class drivers like Huff and Mikulic coming to TCR. I'm not sure if he thinks the same now. On the penultimate lap then, Tashi leads by nearly 2 seconds from Mikulic. Vernet in third, takes a little look up the inside of Mikulic, but no indeed. The Honda closes the gap. Colciago still 4th, Oriola 5th, Lloyd 6th, Nash 7th. Altoe ahead of Morbidelli in 8th. Then it's Homola in 10th, having got past Kajaya. Comini still 12th, outside the points. And indeed, this is rather strangely being called the final lap. And you're as surprised as I am by that. I was expecting 14 laps, but indeed the decision's been made that this will be the final lap. So through the little jink at turn 6 and 7 for the final time for Attila Tashi. So several cars will be investigated after the race. Kajaya amongst them, Oriola amongst them, Moller, and also Colciago. They will all be spoken to. And de Moustier coming up on the timing screen. So the stewards will see a succession of drivers after the race. But that is of no concern to our race leader, Attila Tashi, who comes up to the line, he flashes his lights, who takes the checkered flag ahead of Norbert Mikelic. A 1-2 for Mira Racing, a first ever victory in the TCR International Series for young Attila Tashi. Our congratulations to the pair, particularly to Attila Tashi. A lights to flag victory, more or less, apart from about the first 100 meters, with Jean Calvenet finishing in 3rd place and rounding off the podium, taking a useful haul of points as Tashi, fist clenched, acknowledging the marshals, acknowledging the crowd. A brilliant job from him. Behind Jean Calvenet, Colciago finished 4th, Oriola 5th, Lloyd 6th, Nash 7th, Altoe 8th, Morbidelli 9th, and Homola rewarding the team by getting a point for 10th place. That's the delight that I was expecting. That's Mira Racing. Huge smiles on their faces. As Attila Tashi drives around the circuit. The top 3 cars do a complete lap of this circuit before heading to the podium, where hopefully we'll get a chance to chat to our race winner. There is David Bari. There is Giancarlo Bruno on the right of your screen. That's Colciago's engineer. And the rest of the cars, other than the top 3, will turn off the track at turn 2, come straight into the TCR paddock. Look at that reaction. Victory in front of their home fans, and in fact a 1-2 as well. Brilliant result for Mira Racing. Brilliant result for Honda. And that shakes things up. Colciago finishing 4th, Jean Calvenet denying the team an all Mira Racing podium. Thanks to our marshals for doing their usual brilliant job, but let's get confirmation of the result from race 11. Attila Tashi takes the victory then from Norbert Mikelic, Jean Calvenet 3rd, ahead of Colciago, Oriola, Lloyd, Nash, Altoe, Gianni Morbidelli, and Matteo Homola. Confirmation too that Kajaya finishes just outside the points in 11th, ahead of a frustrated Stefano Camini, de Moustier, Moller, Nag, Fixer, Jedlotsky we didn't talk about in the Unicourse Alfa Romeo Giulietta, Milovan Vesnic in the other Audi. There's Annette Georg, I mentioned earlier. And then there are our non-finishers. Vervish, Borkovic, Huff, Paulsen, Duncan Indy, we've hardly spoken about, and Istvan Bestula in the Kia that we saw briefly in the pits at the beginning of the race. But into the pit lane comes Attila Tashi. He'll be marshalled to a parking position just underneath the podium. There he is. Jean Calvenet already there. In comes Mikelic. The air horns going off in the grandstand beneath me. That's a hugely popular victory. Listen to this as he gets out of the car. Attila Tashi punches the air. Acknowledges the fans in the grandstand across the track. Congratulations from Jean Calvinet as Tashi goes round for a huge hug from his team boss. There is David, there is the team manager. And that says it all, how delighted the team are at that performance. I think it was only a matter of time before Tashi took his first race victory, and to do it in front of his home fans with his boss alongside him on the podium, what a fantastic result. So what's that done to the Drivers' Championship? Colciago leads by 3 points from Jean Calvinet. Tashi has now moved up into third place, ahead of Stefano Comini by a single point. Oriola fifth, Borkovic sixth. Then it's Nash, Kajaya, Vervish ninth, and Hugo Valente, who has announced his retirement from the sport, still 10th on the leaderboard, but we won't be seeing Hugo again in the TCR International Series this year. Mato Homola, that point for 10th, means he's on 45 in 11th place. So let's head down to the pit lane. Let's catch up with our race winner. Attila Tashi is talking to Alfredo Filippone.
Attila, maiden win here at Budapest. You must be delighted.
Yeah, it's the best feeling ever happened in my career. To score my first win in the International Series in front of my home crowd and on my home track, it's the best feeling ever happened to me.
And you were well protected by Norby.
Yeah, I have to say a big thank him because I make a good start, so I could turn in the T1 to first. So after that, I turned off the mirrors and just concentrating for the corners and taking care of my tires, and it worked out well. And yeah, a big thank you to Norby because he made my job much easier.
Well done, it's your party now.
Attila Tashi becomes our 7th race winner from the TCR International Series from 2017. And that's another image that will almost certainly make our highlights reel at the end of the race. Mikelic delighted. 1-2 for the team. Colciago back into the lead of the Drivers' Series. A hug from Giancarlo Bruno. Let's not forget Jean Calvinet and that brilliant job he did of hassling Mikelic right the way throughout the race. But it was that start that did it. Attila Tashi starting from second row on the grid, powering past Venet, powering past Mikelic into the lead, and then he never looked back. So our top three being whisked up to the podium. They're the Leopard team, celebrating JK's third position. But the loudest cheers, unsurprisingly in a few moments' time, will be for the men standing on the top 2 steps of the podium. So the Pommery Champagne awaits our top three. First onto the podium in third place, Jean Calvinet from Leopard Racing in a Volkswagen Golf. And listen to the cheers. In second place, Norbert Mikelic. But taking his first race victory, 18-year-old Attila Tashi. And so, in his honor, we will have the Hungarian national anthem. The grandstand standing in respect, which is great to see. The smiles and the cheers for that young man, Attila Tashi.
Now the presentation of the awards for the winning driver. The award is presented by Mr. Gápás Olaf, President of the National Automotive Sport Federation of Hungary.
And a very popular winner of the first of today's two TCR International Series races here at the Hungaroring. Attila Tashi collects his trophy. And a representative of the winning manufacturer this time, Honda. Well done, Norby. Second place for him, having played the teammate brilliantly. Jean Calvinet lifts his trophy high for third place. So now the obligatory photographs. Everybody gathers nice and close together, please. And a little bit of champagne spraying. There is the small matter of another 14-lap race a little later today, so you don't really want to be sitting in champagne-soaked overalls. But that's a moment that Attila Tashi will remember for an awfully long time. His first race victory in the TCR International Series. Congratulations, very sportingly from Mikelic and from Vernet, as they make their way from the podium to prepare for our second race in about 3.5 hours' time or thereabouts. Confirmation of the result then from round 11 of the TCR International Series. Attila Tashi takes the victory from Norbert Mikelic, with Jean Calvinet third, Colciago fourth, ahead of Oriola, Lloyd, Nash, Altoe, Morbidelli and Matteo Homola. Looking at the second page of the results, Moller's 14th place could be very interesting. He will start race 2 from pole. What will he be able to do with the West Coast Racing Volkswagens of Gianni Morbidelli and Giacomo Altoe around him on the grid? It'll certainly be an interesting drag down to the first corner. Congratulations too to Zengo, to Kia. So Ferenc Fizer finishing mid-table, which is not bad at all from starting at the back of the grid. That then is race 1 from the Hungaroring. Round 11 of the TCR International Series is done and dusted. We'll see you a little later on for round 2.